You went to Vietnam in 1994, and you went with a group of people in 1994. Can you tell us who was in this group you went with to Vietnam?
Well, first it was organized by Arnold Weiser, who was an attorney that was involved in the POW issue. And he was friends with Muhammad Ali. So he took Muhammad Ali and Muhammad's assistant, who was Howard Bingham, and we had an interpreter who was Bill Bell, and another family member, Albro Lundy, whose father was also missing in Laos, and myself. So we had two family members.
And how were you selected to be part of this group that went to Vietnam?
Well, Arnie and I were good friends, and we were working the issue together. And over the years, it had always been a thought that we should make a trip to Vietnam. And then he talked to Muhammad, and they decided to do it. So it evolved over the years.
Yeah, and you had been working on the issue because your husband David was prisoner of war, and as of 1965, and then still missing in the 90s, right?
Right.
Yeah. What was the goal when you went to Vietnam with Muhammad Ali and the others? What was the goal of that trip?
Well, we mainly wanted to let the Vietnamese know that we were still interested in live POWs. So we used it as a humanitarian. And Muhammad Ali would go around the world and do humanitarian goodwill things, over his lifetime.
First, I want to ask about Muhammad Ali, and then about yourself, the sorts of things you did when you were there. First, how long was the trip? How long were you in Vietnam?
We're gone 10 days.
10 days. And what sort of things did Muhammad Ali do when, as part of his work there in Vietnam?
The Vietnamese were absolutely excited and loved having Muhammad Ali there. They took us to all kinds of places, but the big highlight for the Vietnamese was when Muhammad Ali was to a sports center, and they had a ring there with a bunch of young boxers. And Muhammad Ali got in the ring and sparred with the young boxers. And, they just, were enthralled with Muhammad Ali.
I can imagine. What sorts of things did you do when you were there those 10 days?
We went to all kinds of, and I don't even remember all the locations we went to. We were serenaded by some Vietnamese students that played violins. We went to several historic things to look at museums and things like that. We met with a Vietnamese family, and then we went to Ho Chi Minh's monument, and then we just toured all over. And then we went to Da Nang, and then we went to the city of Hue, and
right.
So we were basically not just in Hanoi. We were, different cities.
And during this time, were you able to have discussions with officials?
We met with one Vietnamese senator, who's the only really official that we met with, and basically laid out our plan and let them know that we were still interested in the POWs. And I was personally asking that the Vietnamese maybe intercede with the Laotians, because Albro's dad and my husband were both POWs in Laos, or my husband was a POW. Albro's dad was missing. And so we were asking the Vietnamese if they would use their goodwill and intervene between the Laotian and, us, and maybe get some information on our family members.
And what response did you get from the Vietnamese senator?
The Vietnamese senator basically stated, he said, well, there could be POWs, but they would be out of their control. And so that was the only response we got.
So there wasn't a denial, but there wasn't assistance either.
No.
What was your motivation for agreeing to go? Either, what was there much of a? Did you spend much time thinking it through whether you would go, or was it an easy decision, or what was your motivation for going?
Thing is, Arnie had brought it up several times that we should make a trip to Vietnam as family members. And then he got Muhammad Ali involved in it, so of course I was going to go because, he had put through the effort to organize the whole thing, and on the promise that we would go and we would use it as a goodwill tour, trying to show that there's still interest in the POW issue and live POWs. We had to keep telling everybody in the world that we were still interested in live POWs.
Right, and if Muhammad Ali is involved in something, of course, that's going to get into the news. And
a lot more publicity, yeah. That was the whole thing. And like I said, he had been involved in many humanitarian issues over the years.
Right. And so even though your conversation with the Vietnamese official was not productive, do you feel that anything productive came out of the trip?
Well, you never know, because how would we ever know whether it was productive? We did what we came to do. We let them know that we were still interested in the live POWs, and that's all you can do. But how far up the chain it went, you'll never know. Behind closed doors.
Sure.
A lot of publicity, in Vietnam that Muhammad Ali was there, and he was there on behalf of the POW MIA. And so that's all we could do, is get that kind of publicity out. And I hope that,
sure,
it would do something.
If you could just tell us a little bit about David as a person, what he was like.
He was a very kind man, and he saw good in everybody. And he was just a good person. He enjoyed flying. He enjoyed his life. He enjoyed his family. He was just a really good person. If he wasn't, then I wouldn't have fought so hard. So.
That makes sense. How long, now, if I have it right, he flew out of Thailand, is that right?
Yeah, he flew out of Thailand.
And how long had he been in Thailand? Do you know how many missions he had flown prior?
No, he left here April the 7th, and he was shot down May 18th. So, and he had a 2-week, what they called R&R, rest and relaxation. He had a 2-week in Bangkok just before he got shot down.
So he wasn't in theater very long then. He probably didn't have very many missions.
In our squadron was the first squadron sent from McConnell Air Force Base. And our first casualty happened within about a week or so. The next one happened on May 9th, and then David was on May 18th. So we lost 3, relatively soon after they got over there.
Yeah. What's your last memory of David?
I was walking across the lawn as he was getting into the Air Force vehicle to leave. He had his bag with him, and they were picking staff car. Well, it's not a staff car, I guess. Was picking all of the pilots up that morning.
Wow.
A friendship delegation from the Let Freedom Ring organization, led by former 3-time world heavyweight champion and people's champ Muhammad Ali, recently visited Vietnam. Ali traveled with family members of servicemen last known alive at the time of the Vietnam War, but who did not return home when 591 Americans were released by the Vietnamese in Operation Homecoming, April 1973. As an ambassador of goodwill, Muhammad Ali told Vietnamese officials, "The world is my home and every country is a room. All the people of all races are my brothers and sisters."